Hi, besties and bosses. How are you doing? Let me pull this up in the group. I am looking forward to this conversation so much. I also want to, yes, we are doing a giveaway today. So let me, because I always forget this. If you are live now, if you hop on a little bit later and you leave me a comment, say hi that you're here, we are giving away access to my 7-figure sales actions cheat sheet. So this is literally a Google Doc I share with my clients that I give my VIP 101 clients that has different kinds of indirect and direct sales actions you can take. It's just a really great cheat sheet, and I really recommend to my clients to take 1 to 2 sales actions daily as a way to get fully booked and to make 6 figures or 7 figures. And it's a little bit of what we'll be talking about today, but I thought that'd just be such a fun thing to give away, as opposed to usually I give away one of my trainings or one of my mini courses. I thought it might just be fun to give that away to someone. So say hi to me, let me know you're here, and we will pick one person to have that. And let me just pull this up in the group so that I can see your comments, and then we will get started. So this conversation, I'm excited about this, is I did, gosh, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I did a series of bite-sized biz lessons on Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram, you don't have to, but I've been having a lot of fun with Reels, but I also do bite-sized biz lessons, little mini, like 3 to 5 lessons in stories multiple times per week. And I did a week where I followed the clarity, mindset, strategy, and action of one of my clients who scaled from she was making about 10K per month when she started working with me, and had her first 76K month, her first 110K cash month, and then scaled to $1 million. So I broke through. I broke down the clarity, mindset, strategy, and action, and I did a poll on Instagram and asked if y'all wanted to hear more of that. And so many people said it was really helpful to hear that. It was just helpful to hear the nuances, but also normalizing and permission giving. I'm like rolling on my chair today, y'all. So I thought I would do another one here in the group and do a bit of a bigger deep dive. So this is a different client case study, and you have to let me know now and on the replay if you like these, if these are helpful for you, because we don't usually do this. I've done these in email before, but I haven't done these live before. If you like this kind of conversation, this is helpful, let me know, because maybe we'll do one of these per month. And I think sometimes it is nice to just see what's working for other people or what helped other people get results. So we're gonna walk through one of my clients today who came to me with about, I think they probably had, we've now worked together for a while, but I think they had about 1 to 2 clients probably at the time. And I think we're making maybe a couple of thousand per month. And within the first 3 months of working together, they got fully booked, they replaced their corporate salary, and then we took their business to $1 million over, I think was about a 2-year period. So I'm gonna break down some of the pieces that went into that, more from the business model side, some of the mindset pieces, some of the key strategies we focused on and what we didn't focus on, and just some of my key takeaways. And then again, I want to know from y'all if you want to hear more of this. Before I dive in, a couple of things feel important to preface. I think this is probably why I haven't done as many of these in the past. I think sometimes we hear things like this and it can be so easy to latch on to, this is the thing I need to do, or this is the right way to run a business. And if this is like the first live you're ever catching from me or hanging out with me, if you don't know this about me and my work, what I so believe to be true, I've seen this through my own business. I've been coaching for 10 years and in business for 8. And I've been supporting clients. That first client I just talked about who scaled to $1 million, that was my first year in business. So I've been helping clients, I don't just say this as fun messaging, I've been literally helping clients to grow their businesses to 6 and 7 figures for the last 8 years. And what I have seen to be true is this is not fun messaging. There truly is not a one-size-fits-all approach. If I look across I don't know how many clients I've had at this point, but I've had thousands and thousands and thousands of coaching calls because I only do one-on-one. Every client has a different business. Every client has a different model that works for them. Every client has a different strategy. Every client has different mindset pieces that come up. What is true for all of them is we're always working on clarity. We're always working on mindset. We're always working on strategy. We're always working on action. You do need all of those pieces to create reliable, reoccurring revenue, which I'm really big on supporting clients with, and I want you to all have. And what I really see to be true is this strategy is so simple, but a big part of the work I'm doing with clients, especially, well, really at every stage, is the mindset to let your strategy be simple, to show up for your strategy, and to believe in your strategy and to stay in it long enough to get those results. Because the action piece is also quite important. And I just see, I'm like, I have cat hair all over me. I hugged my cat right before our live, and I'm like itching. So don't mind me. I'm not picking my nose. I just am like very itchy. We also have to have the headphones on today. Hopefully it's not scratchy because they're doing crazy construction outside my window. Okay, I'm very distracted there by the cat hair. But I think that's just what I've always seen to be so true in conversations I'm having with clients so often is I really think that's so much of the value for me as a coach. I'm excellent at the strategy side. I'm so great at helping clients get clear on their messaging and mapping out a holistic marketing strategy. That's why I created the Strategy Intensive Your Marketing Multiplied, and why I think people are having such phenomenal results with it. Like, of course, we need that, but I think the value for me as a coach, one of my clients reflected this to me the other day, is it's just so easy to not stay in your strategy, to not trust yourself, to feel messy, to get in your head. And one of my clients is like, I just so value that you just keep me in it, and you keep reminding me of what's true, and you keep reminding me of how to believe myself, and you keep helping me see all the times I want to give up or get out of my own way, and you keep me focused and in the game, and you like give me a safe place to bring my messy, but also a place to leave it so that I'm not showing up messy in my business, even if it feels that way. Anyway, I digress, but I do want to make sure I'm giving a little bit that context and nuance, because I want this to be valuable for you, but I never want to be giving anything here that sounds like, and this is the secret to making $1 million, because that's just not a thing at all. Okay, I've given enough teasing here. Let's dive into the good stuff. So one of the things I said I was going to share is the surprising model and offer clarity that helped this client get booked out really fast. And I've got a lot I want to say here. I think offer clarity, this is why clarity is a part of my coaching framework. I think offer clarity and model clarity is such a big part of what creates success for you. Because if you have an offer, or if you have a business model that isn't in alignment, it doesn't matter how good you are at doing the thing. It doesn't matter how good your strategy is. If you just don't like it and it's not in alignment, subconsciously you're going to push away results, and you're not going to want them. And I just see how often that is the thing that's keeping people from getting results. And when we can get some clarity around that, and get clarity to let someone lean into what the thing is they actually want to do with their offer and with their business model, how even if the strategy isn't that great, I shouldn't say that, but it's just true, how that changes everything, because you just show up to market and sell in such a different way when you're behind your offer, when you're backing your offer, when you believe in your offer, when you want to deliver your offer. So one of the things this client and I worked on is it was really simplifying their offer and letting their offer be quite simple and quite clear, and really allowing them to take the time to define what they really wanted to work on with people versus what they thought they were supposed to serve people around. And I say that's surprising, because I think, I actually was just talking about this with a new client who had been told by someone else that the only way she was going to make money was like to speak to and to have her offer around this one certain thing in her niche. I don't want to give too many details, because it's a confidential. I don't want it to be like clear who this client is. And some of the things we were talking about, it's just so funny, because that's the very thing that probably would not allow her to get results. And this is a client who's getting really quick results in business, and is also starting to fill their practice really, really quickly. But part of the reason is she's just really doing the work to allow herself to lean into what she actually wants to do and her zone of genius, versus into like what she thinks she should, or what everybody in her niche is doing, or what everybody else is telling her she has to do to monetize. And this almost sounds like a little nebulous, or like, really, Kim? Like, this client made $1 million because they did what they wanted to do instead of what they felt like they should do. But like, yeah, kind of. I mean, it's that and more. But I think that was just such a big part of, again, the offer clarity and the model clarity. The other thing that I have seen with this client, I think maybe this is also surprising. Well, let me speak to that first. I think that piece, and really allowing them to also take, how can I phrase this? To take what they really liked from corporate. I think so often I have clients who are leaving the corporate space, and it's just sort of like an F you to corporate, and like how much they want to get away from that, and how horrible that is. But what that can often do for you is like you almost forget all of the skill sets, all of the things that were good about corporate, all of the things you did really well. It's almost like we like try to become a completely different human, as opposed to seeing we're always, as business owners, we're like never starting out new, right? We're always stacking up on past experiences. And if you excelled in corporate and you had a lot from that space in your life, and you had a lot of skill sets there, especially if some of those, I'm assuming most of us at least like some of those, what a shame to just throw that away completely when you're starting a business. And so we really worked to find what this client's zone of genius was. I talk about that a lot, but I think it's so easy to get caught in your zone of excellence. These are Gay Hendricks terms from The Big Leap. If you have not read that book, I highly recommend it. But your zone of genius is really the things you can do the best, and your zone of excellence is where a lot of us get trapped. Is the stuff we could do really, really well that people would pay us for, but it's not our zone of genius. And so many business owners, and I find so many business owners who are struggling in business are stuck in their zone of excellence. And especially in 2024, when it is crowded and it is saturated and everybody is saying the same thing and everybody is selling the same thing and everybody is doing the same thing, there is still room and enough to go around, and there's still room for you to thrive as a business owner. But if you're stuck in your zone of excellence, it's going to be really tough to differentiate, to stand out, but also to enjoy your business at the level you want to, because your zone of excellence or your zone of genius usually does feel a little scarier to lean into, but it is what you uniquely are suited to do and what you can do better, not better than everybody in the entire world. Like, there might be other people who have a similar zone of genius, but really what you can do the best for your clients. And that is what I have just seen makes a business pop and thrive. Look, it's why I keep doing one-on-one, even though I'm sure I could make more money faster if I started offering other things. I know that's a part of my zone of genius, and I'm not about to like try to go into my zone of excellence and think that that is going to long-term serve me in my business. So I think that's just a piece in terms of like the surprising model and offer clarity. And I say that because I think sometimes we just think it's like, oh, they just figured out how many like calls to have in their offer, or like how many modules to put in their course, and like that was the thing. But it really often is these nuances here that make such a big difference. Now, because they were able to also just not ignore their magic in corporate and bring that in and also lean into their genius, the reason this helped them get booked out so fast is they had an offer that was aligned. They had an offer they actually wanted to show up for. Because they were doing this work, it made them stop hating their corporate experience so much, and they were able to take a lot of pressure off of getting fully booked and run at booking out their practice. And they did, it was three months, and they replaced their corporate salary. And in terms of scaling, I think this is also just maybe surprising or interesting. This client in particular came to me after they were booked, and we were talking about scaling, and was thinking about, you know, traditional paths to scale and more passive revenue streams. And how do I want to say this? I have clients who've definitely scaled that way. The client I was not the client I was referencing at the beginning of this live, but my other client who scaled to $1 million, she scaled in very traditional ways in terms of we added on a course and a mastermind, and she had a membership, right? Things that were one to many, and that also were passive in air quotes. I say passive in air quotes because there's no such thing as a passive revenue product. That is a conversation for another live stream. But if you're chasing a passive revenue stream product because you think it's actually passive, go invest in the stock market. There's nothing passive about a passive revenue stream product at all. In some ways it's more work. The work just looks really different. And that's the conversation this client that we're having the case study or deep dive around today. And the difference between this client and my other client that I'm using as an example here, that client who had the mastermind and she has a course and she has a membership, and all of those are doing really well. She has multiple revenue streams, kind of the more traditional way we think of scaling to $1 million plus. That client loves to market. That client has a huge audience. I think over 100 or 200,000 people. That client has built really great relationships with their audience. That client really loves to create products like that, is excellent at the delivery, but really loves to market, which is what that requires. And so that was a great path for that client. This client that we're talking about here today, when we kind of broke down what that would require, it was like, oh no, like the way they replaced their corporate salary, yes, we had a marketing strategy, but they still to this day, I think their audience is still at under 500, I believe. Like, this isn't the place they wanted to spend all of their time at all. And so I think what's really interesting is this client took a very, very different path. And in terms of the offer clarity for them and what really helped them to go from fully booked or replacing their corporate salary to scaling was, and this kind of like brings it full circle with what we were talking about, is really looking at actually, now that they were allowed to like embrace the parts from corporate that they liked and embrace what they do in their business, and to see their zone of genius, that there was a really great untapped market for them in corporate. And instead of working in corporate to really service corporate with their offer at a very high ticket level. And so that ended up becoming the way that they scale. Now, this will not be right for everyone, again, but what I want you to hear is the nuance under this and how getting clear on their zone of genius, how getting clear on the way they like to deliver, how getting clear on even how they want to run their business. This is not someone who wanted to be on Instagram 24/7, for example. How getting clarity on all those pieces helped them find what was in alignment for them and help them find both the offer, but the marketing strategy and the way to show up that was going to feel good to sell, they could really get behind it, they could really know they could be excellent at, how that even opened up ideas maybe we wouldn't have had otherwise. And then that, I think, is why their results happened so fast and became so big. And so that's what I want you to hear from this. It's not do the same exact thing. It's pay attention to those nuances, because that's what helps you get booked out fast. That's what helps you get results really fast. I really hope that makes sense. I feel like I want to make sure we have time to go through everything. There's one other nugget that comes up for me here. I'm just seeing if we have. Alyssa says, "Ooh, I love your case studies." Oh, yay! I was saying, Alyssa, I don't know if you were here at the beginning. I like knowing if the case studies are helpful, because then I'll do more of them. Maybe we'll do one a month. So I like having that feedback. Thank you so much. So the other piece here that I was maybe or maybe not going to share, but I think it's just helpful, because I was having this conversation with another client of mine just this week, actually. I think, I'm just thinking of how I want to phrase this. This is just around the clarity around your offer and your model. I think I speak to this all the time, right? Have one core offer until you reach a certain level in business, really focus on that one core offer, that one core message, that one core audience. And I believe that for most businesses, and there's just exceptions to every rule. And what I would say with this client is that is true. That's what had them replace their corporate salary. And then 3 months, they really locked into one offer, right? And sold that out and got super focused and built out a wait list for that and before scaling, absolutely. But I think something that's just interesting here, and what I was talking about this with other client, is they did open up to a completely different audience to scale. But here's the nuance that's helpful. They did this in a way where they kept the core problem they solve and the core way they support people and the results they deliver the same. It's just they do it on the individual level and on the corporate level. And so in that way, they're still speaking to the same audience. It's just their people in their audience are at either the individual level or the corporate level. And so yes, the offer maybe looks a little different in the delivery, but it really is the same core message, the same core problem solved, the same core result. And they waited to do that until they were ready to scale. And I think that's just helpful to hear, and maybe permission giving, because I think so often when we hear pick one offer, pick one audience, niche in, when we hear these things, I think we sometimes think it has to be I only work with teenagers who are 13 years old who have brown eyes and brown hair. I don't know, something so specific like that. And I think so often the easier way is to look at what's the core problem you solve, the core result you deliver that, and what's the way you best help solve that problem and facilitate that result, and see that can be really what focus is in. So I hope that part makes sense for you and is helpful to hear. Okay, let's talk mindset. I said I was going to share 2 mindset challenges this client worked on to make their first 6 figures and then to set themselves up to scale to multi-6 and then 7. I have to say this, I know mindset is a big part of the work I do, so I know I'm biased, but I'm biased for a reason. Again, I've been coaching for 10 years. I have had plenty of opportunity that I could change my tune and pick a different lane. I've been in business for 8 years. I have just literally never seen someone have really huge results and sustain those results, keep those results, not sabotage those results away without mindset being just kind of underneath the undercurrent of everything and being a big part of the work. Now look, everybody needs different types of mindset work, and the mindset work can look really different for everyone, but I just truly have never seen that. And I want to say that because I know I'm a coach, I'm selling one-on-one coaching, so I'm a little bit biased, but I also pay a one-on-one coach, and I've been making multi-6 figures for years now in business, right? It's not because I don't understand the strategy in my business, and yes, it's helpful to have strategy support or to look at data or to have someone outside my business look at that, but a lot of the times it's because of this part. I think this is why coaching is just invaluable, and I think sometimes forget that and give our power away to things like whatever the shiny hacker trend is, and not that there isn't value in that as well, but forget at the end of the day, I say this all the time, but your subconscious mind is driving 90 to 95% of your conscious action, and that determines your results, full stop. I will get off my fucking soapbox now, but that just feels so important to say because I'm team mindset. But so a couple things for this client. So I think what's helpful to hear, I did a post about this maybe a couple weeks ago, and this will speak to that. This client had some really big life things outside of business that they were navigating, and things that were like not high vibe, so to say, at all. And they continue to, and I think it's just important to normalize that, to say that you can have really big, hard life things. I mean, these were like, this client was going through some like I just don't want to betray confidentiality, but like some of the hardest stuff you can go through, I think, as an adult and have to navigate, and was still able to build their business and to have these big results. And I think that's, again, just so permission giving, and not in this way of like, oh, because they were just so tough, they were just like, they plowed through things. This client also really has done the work personally to be able to navigate everything that's going on with the big stuff that's going on. But it's not like they were high vibe all the time at all. But, and I think this is the nuance to understand, they also did the mindset work to not bring their personal into their business, and to not use their business as a way to self-soothe their personal. And they also did the mindset work that even if they were having a hard time outside of business, to really do the work to believe in their business, to believe in the possibility of their business, to believe in themselves, to show up for the business, to build that self-trust, to believe in their offer. I do think that is a place where you don't have to be high vibe, but you do really, I think, need that core belief and to drive you in business. And so I think if that's helpful to hear, right, you can have a day where, like, I can have a day where it's like, I'm navigating, I shared a couple weeks ago, my mom was in the hospital, we didn't know what was wrong with her, right? Like that was hard, that was challenging for me, right? I can have those big emotions and feels, but that doesn't mean that because those big emotions and feels, I'm suddenly like, well, I suck as a coach, and my strategy doesn't work, and my business isn't gonna work, and like, or that I'm like not gonna show up for clients, or that I'm not gonna show up for my business. And that's the big difference there. I think so often we think everything has to be perfect, or everything has to be high vibe to get results in business, and that's just not even realistic. That's not life. I don't know who that person is. You tell me who they are, and I probably won't want to be friends with them. But like that's just not a thing. But what is a thing, and I think that's important to see, is to keep coming back to, but how do you anchor into the belief in your work, and that it's valuable, and that, you know, it's worthwhile for people to pay for it, but also the belief and trust in yourself to show up to deliver your services or work or to market. So that's like the context there. The two, this client had, you know, all people have a lot of mindset stuff. Two of the big things we worked on that I think might be valuable for you to hear, and Alyssa, since you're here live, let me know if you have any questions around any of this, or anyone else as you're hopping on. One of the things I thought might be helpful to hear is that this client had money stuff and continues to work through. And I think that's just maybe normalizing, because I think we often hear someone having big results. And I think all of us think, once I make a certain amount of money, I will never stress about money again. I'll never have money stuff come up. And I have just seen the opposite to be true. I've seen more money just simply amplifies what is already there for you around money. So if you have money stress, if you worry about the bottom falling out, if you worry about there never being enough, if you feel like, if you're always in scarcity, if you feel like everybody always wants something from you, whatever your thing is with money, unless that's being resolved, unless you're healing that, working through that, as you make six figures, as then that doubles to multi-six, or triples to 300K plus, or you hit 700K, or you hit $1 million, that is just going to get amplified, because now money is just a lens for what's really going on with you, is basically the thing I always say to clients and what I think about. And so it's like, it's rarely actually about the money. And so much of what this client I worked on is seeing they had a lot of stuff coming up around money, a lot of like safety of like, is there enough? Would they be able to keep creating it? Definitely a lot of like feeling like they had to work really hard and hustle for safety and for money. There's basically a lot of both guilt and safety, if we like were to boil it down. But what was just so helpful when we worked on this is to see is like none of it was actually about money at all, because as they made more money and had plenty of money and overflow, right, these things were still here. Money just kept highlighting like, oh, look, like there's still some of this work here to do, but we got to do this work, or it's going to just feel tougher and tougher to run a business at this level, to make money at this level, or to not sabotage that money away. Hopefully that makes sense. One of the things I find for a lot of my clients, and I'm guessing this will resonate with many of you who are high achievers, I find a lot of my clients, how can I say this? They almost use money as a way to punish themselves, right? It's like they should be making a certain amount. If they're not, then that's a way to punish themselves and make themselves wrong. Or if they feel like not good enough in their business or not good enough somewhere, they're like in a spiral of some sort, they will like not allow themselves to spend money on themselves, or not allow themselves to enjoy their money, right? It becomes this way where it's like, that's the way I'm going to punish myself because of maybe something completely unrelated to money that's coming up. And I think that's just an interesting thing to notice and to see, like, if that's a pattern for you. And I know this client, a lot of what we worked on was like noticing just all the places they wanted to punish themselves, like where that was coming from, and working through some of that, but also looking at how could they create safety around the money they had, trust that it was enough, and also really practice enjoying their money. I talk with almost every one of my clients about this. This is something I've had to work on a lot as well. I think I've gotten actually really good at it, but you can ask my husband. When we first met, I like had such a hard time allowing myself to like enjoy like frivolously like the extra money I was making. And like such a good saver, such a good investor, but to the detriment, like to my own detriment, and that like because it comes from very much a like a lack of safety place. Like I'm not, my mindset is like there will never be enough because like the bottom could fall out because of trauma things. So I had to do a lot of work around that and really allowing myself to like enjoy overflow. But the reason I think it's so relevant to business is if you're punishing yourself with money, right? What's the narrative you're making? It's that like, when I make more money in business, when I book more clients, when I make more sales, I'm going to get punished. Like subconsciously, you're not going to want that. You're going to push that away. Similarly, if you never allow yourself to enjoy some of the fruits of your labor and some of that overflow, similarly, what's the message we're creating subconsciously? It's that you just have to keep working harder and harder and harder, and you never get to enjoy it. And I think that's when we start to get into the like, well, this isn't worth it, or why am I doing this, or I hate my business, or I hate marketing, or I hate social media. Like all of these things we start to like think are so horrible. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, if you never get any sort of energy exchange back that you get to enjoy, of course it's going to feel horrible, right? We have to find that way to enjoy it. And sometimes that is letting yourself enjoy the fruits of your labor. And so that has just been a big part of the work for a lot of my clients. And I just see how much when you do that work, it allows you to, whether it's raise your rates or have clients stop ghosting on payments or stop pushing away clients, or to allow yourself to hold more clients, or to create a new program. It just allows you to receive more, hold more, have more, keep more. The other mindset piece that this client worked on, again, this is like not all the things, we're doing a live stream here, but I'm trying to think like high level, like what are some of the things that might be most relevant for many of you, was really working on having what I call healthy selfishness and boundaries, both with others, but also with their own business. And I think many of you will relate to this. I found this client, like all of my clients are going to be thinking I'm talking about them, except for maybe the specific monetary results, but I think this is just such a common thing. This client had a pattern of overworking, overdoing, and really kind of like hustling for their worth and safety. And also, I think the complicated part was that they also like to work. I definitely fall into this, right? Like I like to work, but I can definitely, when I'm not in a healthy space, like, you know, before going to therapy, before having my own coaching, right? I could work to my own detriment, and it can, like, anything that's good for us has a shadow side, right? It can become to our own detriment. Like that would be like, I can overwork, and that's when you can burn out. Or for me, it was more like a soothing pattern. And so this is something this client and I worked on a lot, because you want to find that balance where, of course, if you like to work, absolutely, that's great. We don't need to have you have, this isn't the client who's going to have then, in air quotes, a lot of passive revenue stream products and maybe just market all day. But we also have to look at where is that turning into something very slippery, where you're creating more work than you need to, you're making your business inefficient, and it starts not being as profitable, or you're really leaning into, I just call it hustling for your worth or hustling for your safety, because that is a very exhausting pattern if the only way you know how to feel worthy or how to feel safe is measured by the amount of efforting you're doing. not only is that exhausting, but we just have to think about being CEOs. I talk so much about learning how to think and show up like a CEO in your business. This is part of that. There is a cap to that. You can only hustle so far. If you want to scale your business, right? The whole definition of scaling is essentially bringing in more revenue or like more money, like faster than your expenses. If your plan on scaling is you're just going to keep working harder and harder, there is literally a ceiling for that, and your time is also worth money. Like that's one of the most inefficient ways to scale a business. It's just not being a great CEO. I was talking about this with another client last week, and I was giving her such a hard time. I was like, do you know what your time is worth? Like, can we do the calculation? I had her calculate what her hours are worth. And I was just showing her, I was like, by you hustling and overworking and overthinking and making more work for yourself than you need, basically, we were like joking about her reels. I'm like, your reels are like, it was something silly. It was something like one of her reels was costing her like $2,000 essentially to make. I'm like, that is the said with love, like that is a horrible spend of $2,000 to basically have one reel go out. Even if it's a reel and it's bringing you in a quadrillion followers, like not worth it. But that's where we have to find like and start to understand that like there is like, yes, it's great to love your work, but we have to look at where does that become unhealthy, and when are you showing up from a healthy lens, when are you showing up from an unhealthy lens, and what's fueling that and what's driving that, and how do you learn how to also think like a CEO, show up for your business like a CEO, and start to check yourself, because you truly can only hustle so far, and that is not thinking or showing up like a CEO. And this is said from someone who has like the hustle gene ingrained in me. This is probably some of the hardest work I've ever had to do myself. So I'm not saying that that's easy, but I do think it's just so much of the mindset work for so many people. And it comes up for all of us in different ways. For those of you who have the like hustling for worth or hustling for safety, or just the narrative of like hard work equals more results. So the harder I work, then the more results I'll get. I think there's just almost like there's so much societal conditioning. There's so much we have to unwind. So just to normalize that, but also to see if that is you, like this is the work, because this will absolutely create an income ceiling for you if it doesn't create burnout first. But for those of you who like to work, I think that's the mind fuck. It won't create burnout, but it will create an income ceiling. You will cap yourself. And if that feels good, that's fine. But if you're someone who wants to scale, like you will absolutely cap yourself. Okay, no questions here. Let me know if you do have questions though. Otherwise, I want to make sure we have time to talk about the other pieces. So let's just talk about a couple of the key strategies that went into this client replacing their corporate salary in 3 months. And this feels important to say. I feel like I gave some of this nuance at the beginning. I'm so proud of this client. I've had other clients who've had really crazy quick results, but I think normalizing a couple of things here. One, that's not normal. Like, that's just not normal. So I don't want you to hear this and think like, oh, I'm supposed to replace my corporate salary in 3 months. It's absolutely possible. I'm always here for you to be the unicorn and to get the outlier results, but this also isn't normal. This client also came in with a lot of experience in what it is they were selling and doing, and really in a place where they were ready to show up, to do the work, to like hit the ground running, and really willing to take action. And like yes, had mindset stuff to work through, but they didn't have the mindset stuff to work through that was really preventing them from showing up or playing a big game. And I think, there's just different mindset stuff we all have. Some mindset stuff is more hindering to getting your results. Some of it is more hindering to your experience of keeping and holding the results. And this client just didn't have a ton of mindset stuff around what they needed to be able to show up and to get those results. So just to normally, because I don't want anyone hearing this and be like, well, what's wrong with me that I didn't get fully booked in 3 months? I mean, you all know my story. It took me 2.5 years to make my first 10K cash month. And I probably got fully booked for the first time, I don't know, 1.5 years in, 2 years. Like, it took me a hot second because I had mindset trash 4 days to work through that hindered the way I was able to market and sell. So all paths are right. Wherever you're at in your journey are right. And let this be an example also of what's possible and what worked for this client. So strategically, like what we did and didn't focus on. A big thing we focused on was their messaging. This client came to me with very just generic messaging, like that didn't differentiate them and that didn't help anyone to understand their thought leadership and kind of what we were talking about at the beginning of our conversation, to really tap into their zone of genius. And it wasn't really clear what the problem is that they solved in their offer. The this is something I was sharing with a client yesterday, maybe. And I want to always give credit where credit is due. I looked this, it's Tara Ziegler, I think is her name. Actually, I have it in front of me on another page. Oh no, it just says her first name. I think it's that. I'll pop it in the comments if I have her name wrong. But I heard her describe one of the things this client I worked on just so well. And so I want to give her credit for the analogy. But she describes what you want to think about with your messaging and your positioning and just even who you're selling to, like your audience and your offer, as really selling to the people who have a migraine, not a headache. Because people who have a headache, like it's just not enough of a pain point. Like if you have a headache, you're like, oh, I'll just take some aspirin and deal with it. Whereas if you have a migraine, like I get migraines, and many of you, if you follow me on Instagram, you like have heard all the different things I've been trying and like things I'm willing to throw money at because it's just so debilitating. You want to find the pain point that is the migraine for people and you want to find the people and you want to sell to the people who have a migraine, not the people who have a headache. Because if you're selling to the people who have a headache, they're just sort of like, yeah, I could take it or leave it. That's just not that big of a deal. As opposed to the people with a migraine are like, I need to solve this, take my money. And so that's just a big part of what this client and I worked on, because their offer originally was essentially speaking to people with like kind of mild headaches, or like just even like almost like how to prevent a headache from ever showing up. And prevention stuff is just really tough as opposed to speaking to the person who has the migraine. Like if I've never had migraines before and you were selling me something to prevent me from ever having a migraine, it's just such a tougher sell because I don't even know the pain of a migraine, as opposed to this will prevent you from ever getting them again because you've been getting those migraines and you know like that is something you're like, yes, again, take my money. Go down a whole rabbit hole about migraines. My mom gets them horribly and has been hospitalized for them, and so I just know how bad they can like really get, and I know how much money she has spent on solutions. And so this is not to say that everybody now needs to go have migraine solutions, but I hope that makes sense just in terms of like finding the pain point that's big enough that someone is willing to pay something to solve it, and finding the pain point that is big enough that someone is aware they have that pain point and want to solve it, as opposed to really trying to create an offer around a pain point that's just like not that big of a deal for someone, or kind of happens every once in a while, or is like something that's just like, I can live with this. I like really don't want to have to spend time, energy, effort to make it go away. Hopefully that makes sense. I would say, Heather says, always such great info, Kim. Thank you. So glad to have you here. Nice to see you. Heather, well, this will speak to you. I think the other really big piece on the strategic side of things that this client really leaned into was mastering sales, but also learning to really embrace sales as an act of service, how to do it as an empathetic, heart-centered human, and how to see that sales were not slimy. This person came in to start working with me saying how much they hated selling, and now they teach sales. So there's that. And then with that, this was, I think this is the other person, or like maybe this is more like what we didn't do. This person barely leverages social media. And I think that's just really important to hear, because obviously we're on social media here. And I'd say most of my clients, well, a lot of my clients leverage social media. A lot of them don't. And I think we just forget that there are so many ways to bring in clients that aren't just about like having your reels pop. I love reels. I only use social media to market, but that's because I'm wearing sweatpants right now, and the thought of having to put on real clothes to go network and to like go out and like regularly in public exhausts me, where I could like sit and hang with you on live streams all day. Y'all know, like I'll talk for 40 gazillion hours, right? Because it fits my strengths. This client, I really worked on getting clear on what was their way to build connections, to build relationships, and to network, to market, and to sell, and really based it around their strengths, how they connect, how they like to sell, not the way I like to sell or the way another client of mine who's had big results likes to sell. I think that made all of the difference, because this client used again, they of course have some online marketing and some content, and that's valuable and helpful, but they leveraged in-person and relationships they already had, in-person relationships and in-person networking, and more traditional like relationship building practices. And that's the strategy we really built for them, because that's what they're really good at, and that's what felt like something they could just show up for consistently. And again, they booked out their business in 3 months, and it's not like we had some crazy complicated funnel. To this day, we don't have a complicated funnel for them. It's not like because they had the best content on social media, like to this day, like that's just not the case at all. And so I think it's just, again, so important to hear, because not to say a funnel might not be right for you, not to say content isn't important. Again, that's the main tool I use in my business. but I think sometimes we just get so wrapped around what worked for someone else, or there only being one way to get results, especially when we're starting out as business owners. I think it is so easy to overcomplicate and to find the hardest strategy, or to like find the hardest path, as opposed to seeing the path of least resistance, the path that leverages your skill set, what works for you, and really seeing that what we're looking at is clear messaging. You have to know how to articulate your offer, right? And what's the migraine you solve? Of course, like, why should people pay you? I think is pretty important. But then at the end of the day, what we're talking about is starting new relationships, building relationships, and being able to make offers effectively. And we can do that in so many different ways. And I think that is one of the reasons this client blew up so quickly. They were really willing to get clear on what worked for them and to trust that, and then to show up for it fully, as opposed to really being stuck on the idea that it had to look like how anybody else, including me, ran their business. I'm always telling my clients, the last thing I want is for anyone to be a mini-me. There are very few of my clients, I think, who want the business I have or want the strategy I have, right? I have a very particular business that is very suited to Kim Argetsinger, that is not suited to most people. And so anyway, that's like almost a whole nother conversation. But I hope that's helpful to hear in terms of what they focus on and what they didn't focus on. Core fundamental principles, foundational like business principles that, again, are not complicated at all. And then I think the big piece is really tailoring to their strengths, and then really finding what's the thing they could show up for consistently. And then of course, like, we're still talking messaging, marketing, sales, right? Like, these are the core things your business needs. I want you to hear that doesn't mean that they suddenly did. If anything, they just became selling machines. They just became selling machines in a different way than I'm a selling machine. I'm a selling machine by showing up on this live stream here, right? And I'm going to tell you that you can work with me. They became a selling machine by leveraging personal relationships offline, doing outreach, and having conversations, sales calls, connection calls, right? So it's all the same core strategies. So don't hear this and think, oh, Kim said that, like, I don't have to worry about messaging or marketing or selling. Like, not at all saying that. That is absolutely what this client worked on. But seeing it doesn't always have to look like being on TikTok, which who knows if we can still be on TikTok in a couple months, or like having a Facebook group, right? It can look very different for you. Those are the elements we just want to keep leaning into. And again, what I think blew this client up is really giving themselves permission to lean into their strategy was so stupid simple. And like, we really worked on making it stupid simple, because they were in corporate when they started this too. It was like reaching out to people basically to book calls. But there was a lot of strategy within that, within the messaging and within the call, and within the sales strategy itself. Not that it was complicated, but just so we can see, like, it didn't have to be more complicated, and a lot of mindset to be okay doing that personal outreach. But like, it was kind of that simple. But because they allowed it to be that simple and they trusted themselves, they could run at that, right? And really take that consistent action that got them fully booked in 3 months. Okay. I do have a call after this. I'm going to wrap this up. There was one piece here. I talked about the truth about the kind of action that's required if you want to make consistent sales for reoccurring 10K or 100K months. So I'll be real quick on this, but I think there's there's a couple pieces here in terms of the action. What I will say about this client is excellent at taking action, right? We talked about some of the mindset there in terms of, not having to hustle for their worth, and if anything, liking to work and almost like liking to take action too much. So taking action is not a challenge for this client. For a lot of my clients, right? I have clients who go on both sides. I have some clients who will kind of like stop and start, or like when they're in fear or feeling pressured or like crunch, they won't take action. So it always comes back to mindset. There's mindset pieces there, but I definitely have clients who it's almost like the overtaking action. So one thing is, I feel like I've been on such a tear about this, but I just want you to hear how common this is for people who are getting big results. We really worked on their 80-20. 80-20 principle is essentially that 20% of your action brings in 80% of your results. But most of us are like we're doing it inverse, right? We think 80% of our action, or like we focus on the 80% that gives us 20% results instead of the 20% that gives us 80%. For most of us, there are a few core things that bring you the most of your results in your business. And this client didn't have a lot of time at the start of their business to grow it. And I keep talking about do less better. This is the concept of do less better. It's the 80-20 principle. It is true for almost every business, and most businesses, even really great businesses, have an opportunity to really audit what they're taking action towards. And many businesses are bloated and are doing things that really aren't yielding great results. And so we really focus on the 80-20, and they really focus on doing less better. I told you their strategy was like stupid simple. Like it was so not stupid at all, but like it just sometimes blows my mind like at just how much extra shit we are willing to do if we're uncomfortable or just to like avoid doing the 80-20. And I think that's the other thing this client was really great at, is because they focus on the 80-20, they really focus on the core needle movers to help them blow up their business, as opposed to when we're focused on the opposite, the 20-80, or when we're focused on doing all the things, a lot of times that's an avoidance tactic. So we never have to focus on the few things that will move the needle forward, right? There's usually one or two things everybody knows if they just did that would get them results, but they're terrified to do it. And so we go do everything else. You know, like when you go to like work on a piece of content and like suddenly you're like, oh, I need to go fold my laundry. Or you're like working on maybe a live, I don't know what everybody's working on in their business. Maybe you're creating a course module, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I need to go redo my website, right? Those are all like really fabulous distractions to keep you from the very things that are going to get you results. And so I would say, like, if nothing else, like that's what this client did so well, and then bringing to me when they were getting caught in that distraction or busying themselves or in busy work. And we've just continued to really narrow in on that and to be really strategic with where they're spending their time. And I think you hear really strategic with where they're spending their time. I think we can hear that to me like, that means they now have a complicated funnel. That's not what really strategic means. Really strategic means knowing what drives results, knowing what actions drive results, knowing what strategies drive results, knowing what to tweak. Like we're retweaking their messaging and positioning a little bit right now because some things have shifted in their business. So if you hear nothing else on the action piece, it's that. And then the other thing I would just say is they really took within that confident, consistent action. So confidence is the funny thing is I think you don't have to, I think you get confidence from taking action a lot of times. So I don't think you have to have confidence in your business, but you do have to have confidence in your ability to deliver your service. And so I think this client is just an excellent example of someone who just really came in trusting their work and their offer and their ability to serve someone through their offer. And so they didn't necessarily trust their ability to sell. They hated sales, remember? They didn't necessarily trust their ability to create marketing or to go out and talk to people. Like that we had to build confidence around, but they really trusted their offer and their work. And they very much have an attitude of like, you're welcome if you work with me. Like you're so lucky to work with me. And of course they've cultivated that more now over our work together. But that sort of energy behind their actions meant that they didn't have to be perfect at sales. They didn't have to be perfect at networking or marketing because they had such confidence in I can help you with we're using the migraine example, right? I don't need you to be the world's best person at messaging. I don't need you to be the person who's like the world's best marketer. I don't need you to even be that great at sales. If you just so believe you can help me get rid of my migraines and you have a solution, I'm going to buy from you all day, every day over the person. That's my warning timer. I'm just going to buy from you all day, every day over the person who like maybe has an excellent, even better offer, but who's just like, I mean, like maybe this will help you, or like, I don't know if I could really support you, right? That is what I'm talking about with confidence and with trust. So I think that was just a really big piece of their action and what drove their results. Okay, I hope that was valuable for you and helpful. Definitely let me know in the replay as well, those of you who are watching, if you want me to do more of these, because if so, maybe we'll do one a month, because obviously we don't want all case studies in the group. But I'm happy to do more if it was valuable. If you have questions or specifics, or if there's a different topic you want me to cover in a live stream, let me know. I really do these for y'all, and I want to be giving you and sharing with you what you find most helpful. So please, 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 if there's anything, let me know. You can put it in the comments, or if you feel shy, you can DM me as well. And then if you're listening to this and this is sparking interest in the way I support clients, and this is the kind of coaching support you're craving, where you have someone to help you with the clarity, the mindset, the strategy, and the action, and you have someone who really understands how to help pull out your zone of genius, get clear on the model that works for you, get clear on your strengths, get clear on what's going to be your path, not my fucking path, your path to getting fully booked, or to replacing your corporate salary, or to making 6 figures, or multi-6 or 7. Maybe you don't want 7 figures, whatever is right for you, that knows how to help you get clear on the really stupid, simple strategy, but within that knows how to make that strategy really specific and tailored to what you're good at, how you're able to best show up, and knows how to hold you in the mindset shit that just really matters and drives big results. That is how I support my clients. I'm excellent at what I do. I won't say that lightly. I'm really not saying that to pat myself on the back. I've just been doing this for a long time, so it would be kind of weird if I wasn't good at it at this point, is really the way I think about it. What do we have available? We have one-on-one spots opening up in June and July. I'll drop a discovery call or a consultation call that's completely free for you below. If you're even curious about working with me, I invite you to take me up on that call. They are completely no pressure. I'm really big on working with people who are the right fit, and I just think that's what's going to make all the difference for our results. So I will drop a link for that. We did fill up your marketing multiply strategy intensives, but I take Fridays off. I decided to open up next Friday. And I think we're going to open up the 31st as well. We haven't decided. I think we'll probably open that up as well. So if you would rather have a intensive week-long level of support where we're looking more big picture at your strategy and looking at the key messaging and the marketing strategy so you know exactly what to focus on every day, every week, and every month, and you have that plan, that map to take you to consistent 10K, 20K months, because like you just want something to go off and run with. I think the strategy intensive is excellent for that, and we do really great work on that. And again, we'll keep it really simple but also really specific to you and your strengths. I want us to tap into your magic, not someone else's, because it is really saturated online. No one else needs another carbon copy of anyone at this point. So if you're interested in that, we will open up, or I'm happy to open up a Friday for that so that we have space for that. So I will drop links below after my call later, and feel free to DM me as well if you have any questions, and then I'll be back next week with another topic for y'all. Thank you so much for being here. I love y'all so much. Okay, how do I end here? There we go.